Good afternoon on what is a mild, grey, overcast day. It is Friday, the 19th of November, and I'm out here in the Reading Nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a small pile of parcels to unbox, and an incoming cat. Come on then, here we go. Cat who is not ours, who is going to sit on my lap whilst I do an unboxing, having looked up on the table and spilt tea. Good cat. So the first thing I'm going to look at today is Klaus Jürgen Reed's Carcassonne. Now there's a lovely blue box for a very good reason, because Carcassonne, the board game, is 20 years old this year. This is the 20th anniversary release. Nice blue box, gold lettering, etc. On the back, indication of what we've got, the tiles, and a basic explanation of what is in the box. So, Carcassonne is 20 years old, and for very many years, Carcassonne has been one of the gateway board games. So, for sort of like 15 years or so, we've had this constant message again: board games are getting popular, board games are getting popular, board games are getting popular. Well, the thing is, board games have been getting popular since the publication of Settlers of Catan, now known as Catan, in 1995. Okay, and they've been picking up in popularity, and he's off again. And essentially, the board game, essentially, as they've risen in popularity, they have changed from being a hobby to a mass, but basically a family pastime. So there are lots of board games out there now which have been influenced by the designs of the hobby games. So, for example, if you have a look at something more recent, like from Ravensburger, for example, Jaws, or Horrified, or the more recent Alien: The Fate from Nostromo, you can look at those and see how they have been influenced by the design of hobby games, because they're all cooperative games and they have mechanics in there which previously family games didn't have. They weren't that complex. You know, they would be simple card games or roll and move games, and especially if they were properties based on a movie, okay, for example. But that's changing, and I mean, arguably, Carcassonne is one of those games. So, sorry, here he comes again. He's got bored with the chatter. Come on, down you get. Basically, video viewers don't want to see that bit of you. So, 20 years of Carcassonne. With this very special anniversary edition, we want to celebrate with you, commemorating 20 years of Carcassonne. The medieval city's renowned knights, performers, and merchants are joined by travellers from the Far East, gold prospectors, and even wild animals from Africa. In this unique edition, we've upgraded the tiles with a premium high-gloss print and decorated with characters from 20 years of Carcassonne's iconic history. Now, you can create more beautiful landscapes and play even more exciting games. Now, if I can just show you that. This is the key of the game. Okay. It's a tile laying game, and you're placing tiles down so that they match the sides. And you've got roads and cities, and as long as those sides match on the four sides, you can put them down next to it. And then you've got your pawns, with your pieces, now long since known as meeples, really coming out of this game, and so on. And you basically, by completing a road or basically completing a city, make it stand on its own, you score points. And you can be competitive by building into a city as well and sharing the points and basically reducing the amount of points a competitor can get. But the game has a lovely puzzle quality, and it also it's a nice family game. So let's have a look inside. I mean, the other thing is there have been iterations since Hunters and Gatherers took it back to Stone Age. The city, you actually building pieces of the city wall, and so on, and then took it to the New Age, Wild West, Star Wars. You know, basically exploring the sort of like the limits of the game, essentially the game format, to the laying tiles, placing pieces, making sure they match, and doing it again and again with different intellectual properties. So a quick slice down here. All right. this. Plastic off. Oh, and there's that as well. Yeah, okay, right, let's place that there safely. So we've got the back of the box, looks like that. So inside, as I say, there's been multiple iterations, different variations, and really they come back down to building the architecture, variable as it is, of based upon the city in southwest France, Carcassonne, which is famous for its Roman and medieval architecture. So it's in southern France. Okay, so it's famous for its unique walls and castles dating back to Roman and medieval times. So here we have the base rules, which they presented as like in this faux kind of sort of like manuscript rules, which is quite a nice touch. And we open up, and all heavily illustrated, and it shows you how to place the pieces. And it looks more complex than it is, but it's not. It really is very simple. So the summary is: place the tile that you drew. Place the tile you drew so it continues the landscape. Place a meeple. Score points. That's it. So underneath that, then we have supplemental rule sheet for placing a meeple as a farmer, scoring points, adding in the river. And the thing is, what the river does is it breaks up the terrains, because you can score points by having large pieces of open terrain called farms. Then we've got the anniversary expansion. And this is done on, normally this is done kind of on like slick paper, glossy paper you would expect, but this is done on thicker paper stock. And then underneath that we have stickers for adding onto your meeples if you want to do that. And underneath that we have, I will show you, well, there's the scoreboard, and you can track around that when you place it. You place one of your meeples. And then on here, I'm not going to punch out all the tiles, but I'm going to show you one sheet of tiles. As you can see, how big these are. These are an inch square, basically about an inch square. You're drawing them blind. They feel really nice in the hand. You're placing them down, and you're trying to match the sides up. So, for example, you've got a field here, and then you've got a complete city. And up here you've got a complete loop of a road. And so if you had a meeple on there and you placed that down, and so when you completed that, you would score points for it. And there are lots of variations upon the tiles, which really, which adds a lot of variability within the gameplay. Because essentially, you pull a tile, you don't know what it is. Well, what's the best place to put it to my advantage, or to make the game a little bit more difficult for your fellow players? And then underneath that you have the bag of wooden meeples. So this is designed for 2 to 5 players. You get 6 meeples, 6 or 7 meeples each. One uses scoring, and the rest you're placing down. And you don't get a meeple back until such times as you've scored the feature, whether that's a road, completed a complete link, or connected to cities or a monastery. Put down a monastery and completely surrounded it, or built a city. So I'll just let's have a look. So there isn't a monastery on here, but there is on the back cover, I see. So I'll show you that. You can see there's a monastery. If you had that completely, there's a monastery. If you had that completely surrounded, you would score points. Okay. And you also score points for basically occupying these large areas of fields. The larger they are, the more you score points at the end of the game. But you can have things like the river, which breaks up the territory, and so on. Now, I used to play a lot of Carcassonne in the past. It's one of the early board games that I got into playing when I got into playing games 20 years ago. It's one of the first board games I reviewed, and I'm coming back to it and reviewing it again. A bit of a retrospective, and it's a classic. And I think the thing is that one of the things that I have to say about it is that unlike a lot of games, of its generation, of that sort of like the noughties or the early noughties, it's not kind of aged, because in part some of the early games suffer from colonial themes, which are not in vogue right now, and as good a designed games as they are, they have elements, historic elements in them that people are not happy having in their gameplay. Now that's reasonable enough. Carcassonne doesn't really suffer from that. It's purely simply medievalism. You basically have farmers, performers. Now performers obviously out on the road. Previously they were thieves. Okay, and I have no problem with the change. I have no problem with sticking with thieves. I still think of them as thieves because essentially that's how I started. But when it comes to this, I will be playing them as performers. But it's so yeah, it's not really changed. It's that much. It's not really aged. It's still a simple classic game, and it's suitable for the family because you look at this, and it essentially looks like a jigsaw, and you're just playing pieces and playing tiles, putting pieces down, scoring points, and it's really very simple. So it's a really good family game, and of course, if you've I'm going to say, it's a nice way to introduce people to play games. To essentially, there's more to just the typical family games. It's a nice starting point, and it's why it's known as a gateway game. So that is Carcassonne, the Anniversary Edition. If you can't find one of these, and I don't recommend you necessarily run out and buy one, in part because it's an Anniversary Edition and it's going to be a little bit more expensive. There's a standard edition you can still buy, and there's also a kids version, there's a younger version as well, and there's themed versions if you want to have a look at those as well. But that's Carcassonne, the Anniversary Edition. Very nicely done. Nice to see it back sort of the core game done like this and celebrated. I thoroughly recommend this, basically as a nice sort of like filler game that you can play with friends and with family. Anyway, once again, thank you for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do click the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, appreciate you posting those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a nice hot cup of tea and a game, or a parcel or game that I can unbox and talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, then please do click that subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.